Good evening. It is 5:30 on the East Coast. My name is Matthew Struck. This is How to CPCU. Anyone that is new to this channel, this is a production of CPCUs that want to share information about the CPCU Society, some of the interesting things that are available to CPCU members, and the value that it brings to them, especially when they get involved. Taking care of a little bit of business here before we get rolling. Please make sure, regardless of whether you're watching this live or the recorded version, to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, retweet, do anything you need to in order to get this information out there, especially to CPCUs or prospective CPCUs. So to start off, before I introduce our guest for the week, I have a guest co-host for the week. Normally you are used to seeing Heather Blevins at my side on this production, but this week we have Miss Joann Pickel. How are you?
I'm great. So glad to be back here. Thank you guys for having me. And I'm glad Heather had another commitment that allowed me to join you.
Yes, she is on the road right now. So her loss is our gain in terms of getting you here. And you have a holiday themed Mr. Pickle this go around.
Yes, Mr. Happy here, holiday Christmas pickle. If you have one on your tree, it's a success to find one. I like to hunt for them in the covers. I mean,
yeah. That's okay. I mean, you're in the right neighborhood with that. Yes, Joann is helping us out this week, so huge thank you for that. And I was looking forward to this, to be able to kind of like mix it up a little. Not that I don't like having Heather here every single week. But so this week we are talking about interest groups. And so like I mentioned before, we actually have a second guest of honor this week. Denise Brown is with us. Denise, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, Denise was just making us extremely jealous with the temperatures out there out west at present. So I think you said it was mid 60s, right, Denise?
Yeah, it's a sunny 64. I mean, I guess the only downside is that we need water.
Yeah, that is true. Right. Well, the water is falling outside my office right now as we speak. It just has to melt first before it becomes water. But
ship it this way.
Yeah. and Joann, you're dealing with. Are you still in kind of like freezing temperatures neighborhood or what?
Yeah, no precipitation, just dry and bitterly cold. So I think we're like in like 34 today with wind.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, no, the wind is the worst. The wind's the worst. I can deal with cold as long as there's not like that wind that kind of bites into you. But so I digress. So we are talking about interest groups today. And a quick reminder, anyone that might be watching this real time, definitely share your comments or your questions for any or all three of us if you have something that is burning to be talked about or asked. But so Denise, I want to get into interest groups, but first of all, so people who may not know you, who are maybe CPCUs or just people in the insurance industry that are just tuning into this, who are you in kind of like the CPCU Society ecosystem?
Thank you for having me first, Denise Brown, and I am in the Sacramento Valley area. So chapter-wise, I'm Sacramento Valley chapter, but interest group-wise, I am a committee member of the claims interest group, and I joined the claims interest group as a co-editor when we used to have our publications, our individual publications. And from there, I went to webinar chair, and I'm kind of still a webinar chair, but I'm also co-chair of the actual committee. I co-chair with Brian Panabianco.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
So, so in terms of the day-to-day, so you're basically involved in one or multiple IGs.
Well, I am an official member of the claims interest group, but I have been sitting in on the risk management interest group calls, which has been very interesting and very enlightening. It's, a little bit different from claims. And then I have also participated in a couple of 3 IG calls. So, but besides that, just some of the collaborations as far as different sessions or webinars So there's a lot of collaboration, but officially I'm claims interest group, and then unofficially maybe risk management.
Okay, awesome. Joann, in your kind of like frame of reference, what does like an interest group mean to you in the context of the society? Oh, you're on mute.
Look, I was just so excited. I didn't even.
You wanted to get into it.
No, I'm excited to be able to attend some of the webinars that the interest groups do. For me, being here in Oklahoma, we don't have this massive amount of members in our chapter. We don't have a massive industry group that we get together all the time. And so it's kind of nice to feel a part of people within the industry and learn from those who I work with. I mean, you build the relationships with the people that attend those groups, but then you also get to kind of hear, and it strikes something that I would never have heard about here in little Podunk Broken Arrow, but I might be able to hear about it from somebody in Sacramento Valley. And now all of a sudden I have a reason to kind of engage. Oh, that was interesting. What's that about? I write somebody's name down. I stalk them on LinkedIn for a little while. And now all of a sudden it's like I'm learning, but it's not because it's forced on me, right? I mean, now we really have to start to, as a kid, you go to school and it's forced on you. Now we're grown-ups and we really get to pick what we want to learn. And so being able to have the interest groups at my fingertips, whether it's online or through webinars or through these podcasts and things, that's a huge benefit for anybody, whether you're CPCU or just an insurance industry person. I mean, we are fun people, and getting to talk about our stuff is exciting. So
yeah, definitely. Denise, so I mean, you mentioned 3 interest groups that are there's some crossover, but they're very diverse in terms of the 3 that you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Are those kind of like are those like people's home away from home within the society, or I mean, kind of like in layman's terms, what would you describe it as to someone who's new or hasn't even been part of the society?
So it's definitely a home away from home. That's a good way to put it. So you join an interest group and you start collaborating with these people, and they become great colleagues, great resources. But the best benefit is they become long-term friends as well. Mm-hmm. So these are people that you can work with, and when we can get together in person, we can play with as well, right? Yeah. So it does become an extension of it's just a way to grow both your contacts as well as your friends. It's been great. I truly enjoy it. And as far as the diversity is concerned, that is massive. I mean, and all different kinds of diversity. And for me, the professional diversity is great. So like I said, I've been sitting in on some of the risk management interest group calls just to gain a little different insight to a different segment of the industry, which is a great part about interest groups, because you can go over to underwriting if you don't know anything about underwriting, or if you need to, tune up your knowledge on underwriting, you can just go participate there and gain all kinds of knowledge. And then, of course, there are a number of different interest groups, and you just find what you either love or you want to learn about and step on in.
Yeah.
Denise, you make such a good point about the diversity. If you think about that, obviously we naturally go to age and sex and things like that. But you're right, the diversity in the groups as far as who's doing what kind of work, we learn about data analytics, and we learn about, it's not just claims, it's not just underwriting. I think having the opportunity to really be involved with some of our broker peers and let them know that we're doing our best to help them market their stuff while we're servicing their stuff. But then on the flip side, I get excited about those students that come in, those new insurance students, new designees that are the young pups, or so I say. It's like, okay, guys, again, for a lot of people realizing that the insurance might be an older type of job, right? Well, we've got to bring in that fresh young blood, whether it's in CPCU or in insurance in general, and get these people excited to see what it's all about. And I think interest groups are a great way to slowly tread the commitment line without really jumping in full force ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It is a great way to become involved, and you can dip your toes in and either just participate, on a minimal level. Actually, you can do whatever works for you. And then, if it's something that you're really, really enjoying and you want to take off with, then there's a lot you can do, right? You can do it with a single interest group, or you can spread yourself even thinner. And, there's usually enough people within the group where you can share responsibilities, so it doesn't have to be overwhelming. For me, it's all about having a good time and growing yourself, helping others grow, and having fun doing it.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, when obviously when they think of the CPCU Society, I mean, just the moniker, Charter Property and Casualty Underwriter, they think it's just a company side underwriters organization, and it's anything but that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a ton of underwriters within the organization, but there's also agents and brokers, claims people, attorneys, right? So it's a very diverse group. So, I think people are familiar with the idea of, say, like a national organization or association that's broken into like local chapters, which, Heather and I have tackled in previous episodes. And what's nice there is it's kind of like a sandbox where you can work on like leadership skills and things like that. The interest groups give you an opportunity to kind of like play and work on those skills and be kind of like creative, but within your own kind of like skill set, right? Like, or within your own industry, or like you said, test the waters elsewhere if you're, say, like, looking for maybe a lateral move within the industry or a transitional move.
Right.
What are some of the most interesting things that you've seen come out of the interest groups? I mean, obviously the 3 IG parties are pretty much what gets
they're always good. Yeah.
Yeah. But besides those,
well, so I truly enjoy the sessions that the interest groups produce for InterRisk. They're just so top of the line, and not only do you learn a lot, again, you get to collaborate and make new friends and learn new stuff. I actually one of the reasons I joined an interest group, and I joined an interest group really before I became too involved in a chapter. But the reason being is I work in the broker field, and as a claims consultant, and I do presentations, and most of those presentations I've done on a smaller scale, small groups, and those groups were starting to expand. And public speaking, I never felt really strong about. I do tend to be more introverted, and so I thought, I'm just going to do this, and so I started submitting annual meeting, now InterRisk sessions, and getting up on stage, mostly with not by myself, not solo, usually with a panel, and trying to develop my skills so I felt more confident and comfortable in front of big groups that were clients and their management teams. So for me, that's been the great experience. But the exciting stuff is really the collaboration with everybody to get there. So if you decide you want to do an annual meeting InterRisk session, you collaborate with others to develop a program. And whether you're a presenter or a producer or both, you engage with people maybe you never met before and bring them in. And again, that ends up being another person to add to your list of resources and contacts and friends.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting when we talk about, I say the interest groups because the society may not always get to change with the times. It's a big ship and it takes a little bit longer to turn things, but the interest groups can almost, adapt and change and be very flexible to bring things in. And, as we've talked a lot about changes within the society and different things. And that was one of the things I'm like, we need to get the success stories. Exactly what we're talking about right now is the things that have happened. What did you come out of this? So you presented this material. How did that impact this, that, or the other? So I would almost ask the audience, at some point, if you've been in an interest group or you've heard of something about an interest group and it's actually been adopted, I would love to hear those stories, either today or sometime. But I think that's what do enough, I think, in recognizing what really comes out of them. You get a question like this and you have that pause and you're like, what is really great? We know we're doing great things, but what is it? And so it's like we're so busy in the work that we're not always about the work. And so hearing some of those success stories, connecting with a partner, teaching a class with a partner that's in the international group. Oh my gosh, that's think of the diversity there. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that reminds me, because so another great thing that happened is a couple years ago, 3IG, or actually it was the Europe chapter. They were having their meeting in England, in London, and Elaine George reached out to the Sacramento chapter because we connected with her. She did one of our conferments, and so she sent us the invite, and 4 of us from the Sacramento chapter got on a plane and went to England and spent a week there and went to their meetings and their events and other fun as well. And so it was just great. It was one of the funnest trips I've ever been on with, of course, my husband was in tow as well, and everybody else's spouses were in tow, but it was just like a big party. A lot of learning, but just a lot of celebrating as well.
Did you go to a pub?
Of course. Of course. Who wouldn't go to a pub? Yeah, exactly. And so now, bringing it kind of full circle for me and interest groups, and just what energizes me now is that I feel like I've been able to take advantage of what they have to offer. And now it's about recruiting, like you said, Joann, the younger generation that's entering the field, and letting them understand and know what's available for their own personal and professional growth. Again, not just annual meeting or into-risk sessions. It could be developing and presenting webinars or writing articles for insights. And, it's the professional playground. These new CPCUs, we need to be able to just reel them in and grab them and show them how much fun there is to be had. And while you're having fun, you're growing professionally.
Yeah. Matt, that's a new tagline, professional playground. I love it.
Yeah. It's totally the case, because we're all forgiving at the same time. We all fail now and again, right? Hate to fail, but it's also a great learning experience. When you fail, you got to pick yourself up and move on. And, it's not like we're not going to invite you back. It's like you take your lumps and you move on, right? And we're a very forgiving bunch, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is test the waters, try it out, and if it's not for you, try something else.
I think that the interest groups are what I appreciate about the interest groups are the chapter as a family, right? Is your local family where, like a traditional family, you don't necessarily get to choose your family members, right? Like they're geographically around you. So it's like whoever decided to move where, that's who your chapter members are, right? Not that I would ever advocate anyone poaching chapter members. You could try and get them to move to where you are, but just know, like, pretty much it's like, that cousin that you're a little bit of ashamed of, you really don't get to, disassociate yourself from them. But the IGs are, you get to actively make that kind of like discernment as to, if you want to be involved in it, to what level, who you want to collaborate with. And it's very much that, like, the chapter is kind of like the generalist stuff where you're learning how to put together an insurance event, how you're learning to create very kind of like wide topics of professional discussion and development that are going to appeal to a lot of people. The interest groups, you're learning kind of the juxtaposition of that, right? It's the laser focused article or webinar that you're writing for a specific population or because you have a specific expertise. One of my favorite things that I was able to do, we were talking about, you introduced collaboration, Denise, was we did a webinar with the agents and brokers group in conjunction with the underwriting interest group. And just for people's edification, so I wanted to pull up, hopefully this is viewable on people's screens, but maybe I'll just pull up the full screen in case it's about the same. But so anyway, these are the list of the interest groups as presently constituted. We worked with the underwriting interest group, and we put together a session that was geared towards basically putting together a submission for a new account or a renewal account that was going to get to the top of the stack for underwriters because, all the information was there. It was packaged correctly. All of the context was there. So the underwriter could really quickly and efficiently just make a determination on the account, yes, no, and pricing, and answer as many questions up front, right? Really kind of create that best in class submission to go to the underwriter to tell the client's story. And that wouldn't have been possible in a lot of other places unless you had a really strong collaboration, not just with a bunch of brokers that were in the room, but you also had to have, good high quality underwriters on the other side of that to say, we want X, Y, and Z. This is a disqualifier. This is extra credit, that kind of thing. So that was really kind of like a favorite experience of mine in terms of the collaborative aspect of things. As far as like the interest groups go, what do you see as, like, at the end of the day, if you're like brand new, like absolutely brand new, how do you get involved? Like, I think a lot of us, Joann, how did you get any interest group involvement? Was it someone like dragging you along, or did they have like a banner and you're like, hey, that looks interesting, I want to be a part of that?
Well, that would be Heather Blevins.
Yeah.
So Heather was always a go-getter and always active. And so she had talked to me about the claims interest group. And so it was just I'll listen in a little bit. And then I got more involved in my local chapter and realized this local chapter can benefit from what this interest group is doing. And then now there's more and more. And so it was just almost, I felt it as a duty to connect these people, like selfishly, let me get into it. Let me see what I can get out of it. But then it was like, oh my gosh, I can get them to do the work and my chapter can benefit from it. Right. So it saved me work in the long run from a chapter perspective, but the material is so good. How can you deny it? I mean, they're talking about topics like you were saying, laser focused topics. And so many of them can even be CE approved. There's just no way. We have some high caliber presenters out there in those interest groups. So why would a chapter reinvent the wheel if we can knock on the door of our interest group partners?
Yeah.
Well, and with COVID and doing everything virtual, it's that much easier now to connect and collaborate with others. I mean, I prefer to be in person, but I would have to say that I've been able to participate at a greater level throughout the society because we're virtual.
Yeah. Well, just a production like this, right, was not necessarily made capable, but it was like COVID lit the fire that enabled us or actually behooved us to do something like this and kind of put together this kind of content. So, but so it sounds like Joann was hopefully not kicking and screaming, but dragged or aggressively coaxed into becoming part of it. How did you get involved, Denise? Was it personal interest, or did someone have a hand in it?
Yeah, no, it was actually personal interest. So I just, in my journey and getting my CPCU, I was just hanging out on the website a lot and doing a lot of looking and lurking and reading and whatnot. And there was a little bit of information about interest groups, and I thought, oh, this looks kind of interesting. I might like this. And what I was looking at was Clue, because I was thinking, maybe I'll be interested in doing some expert witness works at some point in time. So I actually sought out interest groups myself, which is, I guess, different, because most people, it seems like, aren't really aware that the interest groups exist. I think we've gotten better at it now. I think there's been a big push to shout out and wave our hands. Here we are. But I took my own initiative, and funny is that I did apply for, to volunteer, and I selected Clue, but they didn't accept me. And there was I don't know why. And there was an opening in claims. And so they said, how about claims? And I said, sure. And I sat in on an interest group call, a claims interest group call. And during that call, I told you I joined in and I started out as a co-editor, but they were in the specific call, they were talking about that need. And I didn't raise my hand. I sent an email to the chair at the time. And I said, can we have a side conversation? Because I wasn't sure, if I would be good at it or if I should even try it. You know, I was kind of like a little bit nervous, but I knew I needed to do something to get more involved. And so we had the sidebar and he said, sure. And so, you know, there started my journey, and, you know, it's great. So, I mean, I just think we need to, and I think we are getting better at spreading that word and drawing people in, but it also takes an individual's own gumption to get out there as well, right? If you want more from your CPCU, if you are dedicated to the industry, if you do want to grow professionally, it is the place to be. It is definitely the place to be. And then you can grow from that. You know, you don't have to stay in an interest group forever, although in the claims interest group, we've got long-termers there for sure. I'm one of them, but you can grow beyond that as well. It's not the only thing there.
Yeah.
Well, and you can be a member without having to do. And so you're getting all that benefit. And so that's why it's like people need to realize it is about education, and you do have to own your development, right? You do have to own some of that. So I think it's important to realize what you can get out of it, but it's just as much as what you put into it.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's kind of like I've learned about claims because that was where I was. But now, I mean, when you talk about CLUE or legislative regs, you know, that's also one of those that, okay, I don't have a lot about that. I have to deal with it every day, but getting to learn and have a safe place to do it, so I don't feel like an idiot because I'm going to a meeting out at the Ramada and here I am going to walk in by myself. I have this opportunity to do it in the playground, in the professional playground, where nobody's going to pick on me for being there. So I think that's such a value for people to realize that this is something that the industry's giving us, right? We are all volunteers giving this back to the industry. All you have to do is take the leap, get involved.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of similar to, would you liken it to, I've only worked for a handful of big companies in my life, and only one of them had like an employee resource group or some kind of collaborative that was built. I like to think it's that, but again, I don't have kind of like the background to speak about it, but it's like, I just wonder if like, that's a good parallel. Like if you work for a big company, some like type of focused employee resource group internally is probably a good analogy to what the interest groups are. Would you say, I don't know if you've ever if either one of you have kind of worked for a big carrier or company that offered that kind of resource.
I've always worked for small companies, and so I'm not the one to speak about that. I know that we've had chapter meetings where we brought in speakers on their resource groups. I think it might have been like Liberty Mutual. It was quite a ways back, and it sounded like an interesting resource, but I'm not personally familiar with it.
Yeah. What about you, Joann?
Yeah, I had been at a large carrier before, and they did something very similar. And so I'll say that I think the interest groups are more welcoming than some of those employee resource groups, just because the diversity again. And I don't know, I just really feel like having you're with somebody that doesn't know your every move is kind of a little bit refreshing to give you a fresh perspective. So I do see the parallel. I do see what you're talking about, but my experience was I felt the interest groups and my CPCU buddies were more welcoming in general. I mean, I remember meeting you for the first time, Matt, outside an elevator, and it was just like I knew you my whole life. So I mean,
must have been an Inter-Risk or Leadership Summit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In fact, I think the first time that I met Joann was actually when she co-hosted at the Leadership Summit with Heather, when you did the session on running a decent chapter. And I can remember at the time, me being an up and coming chapter, member that they were trying to slot into a leadership role. I was like, this is my Bible. Like, this is my, I need to internalize all this stuff, because if I'm actually going to, affect some positive change on the chapter level, this is going to be good. But a component of that training, I believe you or Heather talked about bringing in that expert kind of presenter or that expert kind of, information that's being generated by subject matter experts in the interest group world to really kind of round out or diversify the offerings of the chapter. So I think that's huge. That's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, the interest groups are, you're right, they're marketing themselves better. I think we could do even more, but really, if you're like an individual who's just starting in the industry and you want like a crash course in whatever it is, being a broker, a crash course in being a claims adjuster, or, being on the litigation, the clue side of the house, like you were talking about, Denise, there is no, like, it's a fire hose, right? Like you will learn a ton of really targeted information in a very short period of time if you take that step.
Yeah. I would say, like Joann said, we are very welcoming. I mean, we want as many people as we can, draw in, and it's not like a race for numbers. It's because we're excited to share, and it's because we're excited to have new people in who can perpetuate. We've got this, like not everybody's going to be in the insurance industry five years from now. So we need to have, that flow of talent coming through to learn, to grow, and then to give back. And so, yeah, our thrust is certainly to bring in the new CPCUs, and you don't have to be a new CPCU. Maybe you've just never participated at that level, and you're curious, or you are ready to give back. It's the best place to be if you want to give back.
Yeah.
So Denise, I have a question for you, because I love my CPCU people, but not everyone is just meant to be that presenter. So how do you approach the diversification in energy? I mean, when you're doing your webinars, and you've talked a lot about that, and claims can be dry unless you're talking about some exciting stuff.
Claims are never dry.
How do you kind of, because we talked about this once before, we've got to have some entertainment value, right? I mean, that's turned in for entertainment value. So I'm just curious your thoughts on how you kind of recharge that interest group from that perspective.
Well, when I'm going to go to the webinar topic and the different ways that you can participate, right? Because not everybody's going to be dynamic, right? You have people who are going to be more introverted. You've got people who are going to be more analytical, and there's room for all of that in a process. So with a webinar, I mean, you need to reach out to people. If you're not going to be a presenter, which is great, it's fine, it's totally fine. You can reach out to subject matter experts and help us recruit someone who's going to present. You can help with submitting the application for approval for a webinar. You can be a moderator, and moderating is a really good way to kind of test, because you have to speak a little bit. It's scripted and everything, but it kind of warms you up to the process. So if you're looking to grow and there's a spot for anybody, and you can either stay in that spot, because some people like to stay in their comfort zone and they find that, okay, I like being a moderator, so that's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to do a lot of it. That's great. But if you want to grow more, you can take baby steps, and then you can say, okay, I'll present, but I'll co-present with somebody else because I don't want to stand alone, right? And then maybe you did an excellent job, or you felt very confident, or a subject super well, and you're going to give it a try, right? You're going to give a try doing it solo, and you get feedback. And that's the best part, is like, if you get feedback on all of this stuff, and maybe you get good feedback, maybe you get a couple of comments, and you, I mean, if you're honest with yourself, you'll recognize those comments as either being true or somebody who's just kind of grumpy, and so you can improve. So it's a step-by-step process of personal growth, and I don't know who wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So other than your webinars, what are some of the other deliverables that come out of the interest groups?
So I've talked about the interest sessions. So we work on those throughout the year. Right now, we're in the process of looking at different topics And we've got different groups working on different topics and trying to figure out how to hone in that topic. And do we want to present it ourselves, or do we want to get, other subject matter experts involved? And do we want to collaborate with another interest group? And that really, that process is a long process because we all have jobs, right? I mean, we are volunteers here. We all have jobs. So it's a process that you can fit into your professional flow of work as well. So that's a big one. So we start at the beginning of the year, and the annual meeting into risk is not until usually October. So from actually December right now through to October, we're working on that the entire time in bits and pieces, pulling it all together. So besides that, then you've got the webinars, and, for our COE, our Circle of Excellence, in the past, it's been, they recommended 4 to meet your COE criteria, and 4 is a good number. It's easy to accomplish, but I like to do more than what's required. And so I think we did 6 or 8 for the claims interest group this year, and that's fun because then you can spread them out, right? So you can do one every other month, or you can do 1 a quarter, whatever. And so whatever you can commit to. So webinars are really big, and then there's writing articles, and those articles can be published in a variety of forums. I mean, the big one is obviously going to be Insights, which is definitely a process. You need to work with your publications committee representative within your interest group to access the publications committee. And if it doesn't cut there, because maybe you're just starting to learn to write, or you're practicing your writing skills, then maybe it's going to be published by your specific interest group. Maybe they have a newsletter, or it could go out onto LinkedIn, or whatever, all different forums of areas to publish your good writing. And again, just like I said with the webinars, you start small and you can grow. That's the same with the writing. And the great thing about it is that if you want to learn to write, that publications committee, they've got some really good authors on the committee, and or they have connections with other authors, and they're extremely generous people. So if you're starting to write, I have a colleague and good friend, Lisa Bracero, who actually wrote an article that was published in Insights, that she sent it to me to give a proofread, and it was great. And I said, "Ooh, but I know who could really, really knock this out for you." And so I connected her with another CPCU who writes a lot, and it happened. So it's boy, that professional playground is it's as big as you want it to be, or as small as you want it to be. I mean, if you don't have, I mean, this. Okay, we're in COVID, and if you're a working mom or dad, and you've got kids at home, and they're doing their schooling from home, and you're working from home, and your husband or wife are working from home, you've got chaos in your house. So maybe you have to go small. That's fine. Small is good, because a lot of small makes something big, right? If you've got 1,000 people doing something small, you end up with something that's very huge.
Yeah.
So Matt, what I'm hearing Denise say is that these interest groups are made up of some really talented people with all kinds of expertise, not just insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's the one thing that's you could say it till you're blue in the face, and it's really tough to communicate that to someone like verbally. They have to see it or experience it. Like when you get into the room with, I think a lot of people have been to conferences, like professional conferences. And so you're in a big room with a bunch of people, and maybe you make contacts with a couple of people, and you get a sense like they're good people or whatever. But the CPCU Society, for one reason or another, just kind of has this unique flair for aggregating people who are, one, really intelligent, okay, two, they're extremely motivated, and people wouldn't expect this, but they're also extremely creative, because in the insurance industry, depending on who your employer is, they might give you a slot or a role that you fill, right? And you can get really good at doing that slot or that role. Most people that come to the CPCU Society, it's not that they're not happy in that slot or that role, but they're looking to make it theirs, or they're looking to see what another, kind of role within the industry looks like, or they're looking to find a role that no one knew existed yet, and a lot of those folks populate those interest groups, and you get a lot of face time with those people, which is a great lead in, because my next question to you, Denise, was going to be, last week we did an episode on mentorship within the CPCU Society. And we had a 2019 new designee, Desiree Marshall, that is going through I wouldn't call it like a mid-career crisis or anything, but she's kind of like asking questions. She's like, what does the future look like? What kind of propensity or bandwidth is there for mentorship within those interest groups?
Oh gosh, there's a ton. I would say that, and not even just in every CPCU wants to help another CPCU, right? I mean, you can raise your hand, you can ask, and we're going to take you under your wing. It's as easy as that, really. Whether it's at your chapter or at the interest group, or you meet the new designees at Into Risk, and if they have a want, I mean, come on in. I don't know anybody who doesn't respond with excitement and sincerity about mentoring or even being mentored. I mean, both directions as a CPCU. I know I've been a mentor to some students at our local college, Sac State, and it's great. It's so rewarding to be a mentor, and maybe that's part of it too. And just, working with people who really want to better themselves, it just makes you want to help that much more. And it's just exciting to watch them grow to get your college degree, they have their GIS, which is kind of similar to a chapter, and helping them manage their GIS responsibilities, get through school, get a job, a real job in insurance. And you're just like, oh, I feel like a proud mom all over again. It's just a wonderful thing. It is absolutely wonderful.
And anyone who's not familiar, GIS is Gamma Iota Sigma. So that's the insurance based, I guess, Greek organization, that's available on a lot of college campuses for kids. I would also say, not that this happens to everyone, but occasionally it happens in your current job role. Whoever your direct supervisor or manager or boss is, maybe they're just not a great mentor. Right? Like, some people are really good at inspiring people. Other people are more nurturing, and not everyone is a good mentor. It just happens. Right. The interest groups give you that opportunity to find other people that are not just your peers, but other people that are seasoned vets in that area that can be that mentor for you. Especially if you feel like you're not getting that value at your place of work.
Yeah, and what's really great about it, just like we can reach out to our CPCU colleagues if we need expert opinion, or we're working on something and part of it is in a different subject that you're maybe not so familiar with, so you're going to reach out to your CPCU friend. Same with mentoring. If you have a mentee that has a specific area that they want to, grow in, and maybe it's not you, I can certainly team them up with somebody else who's going to, do it with as much vigor as I would.
Yeah. That's actually, I don't know if everyone knows this. I mean, if you're a CPCU, because you take the oath, but it's within the oath, and it's specifically within the core,
canons.
Yeah, it's within the core canons of, what it is to be a CPCU and what you sign on for, right? It's improving the industry and advancing it. Like, it's like the old, I forget if the Girl Scouts have a similar, but everyone says the Boy Scout model, right? You leave the place better than you found it, right? Like, that's essentially what it is. And those people, and I can't stress this enough, it's a volunteer organization. Some people have to dip into their own pocket to do this, okay? They're there because they give a crap, right? Like, for no other reason. If you did not care, you would not spend your time at like a meeting where it was like, you're not interested, or you're not like invested, so they're there to like help you out. I've helped probably 3 people now get jobs, a couple of brokers, and I just haven't been in a place where I could hire them myself. I will be one day, and you people know who you are, so I will be coming back. But yeah, that does not help me directly, right? Like, if anything, I'm creating my own competitors somewhere off in the world.
That's true. That's true.
Like, what Superman, basically contributing to the origins of Lex Luthor, but hopefully they end up becoming part of my team eventually. But that's just what it is. Like, it's a bunch of people that are looking to help each other out, and the interest groups are that really kind of specific group of, super insurance nerds / professionals that are all doing that together, which I think is fantastic. So, I don't know. That's like all I got. I mean, what else do you guys have as far as like the interest groups? Anything else that I kind of like might have glossed over, or some other aspects that you really love about the IGs that are out there?
I just think that if a person doesn't take advantage of the interest groups, they're nuts. They're just nuts. I mean, it's easy. It's fun. I mean, all you have to do is connect with one person who's in an interest group, and they'll direct you where you need to, where you want to be, right? It just takes connecting with one person and saying, here's what I think I want to do. And, for me, when I'm communicating with somebody who's interested in an interest group, IG Roadshow has been really good at facilitating that. I connect them with a chair, and typically it's like, just join their call, do a couple of months of calls. And if you think it's something that you want to pursue, submit an application. And I've never seen an application not get approved. I mean, it would be different if it wasn't approved. And even if for some reason it wasn't approved, you can still participate and wait for a slot to open and be approved. So it may be a capacity thing more than anything else if it's not approved. But yeah, I mean, God, call me, call any of us, and we can get you where you want to be. And then, some of it's going to be up to your own initiative as well, obviously, but we can certainly help accelerate that.
Well, we'll find a spot for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt, you hit on something so good of the fact that, the job hunting part of it, right? I mean, being connected through an interest group, you did it out of pure knowledge, right? You didn't do it because I'm going to need a job in 5 years. And because the industry is the way it is, that sometimes happens, and you don't really realize the connections you've made until after. And somebody hears that and you're like, hey, I've seen the way you've pulled all this time. Let's get going in something, and I can vouch for you. And so I encourage that from that mentorship. Not just think about it. I mean, you're not doing it for the professional leg up, but it ends up being that way. And that's the most sincere form of flattery, when you get somebody who's like, you thought I did a good job by just being part of your group and listening and contributing?
Yeah. I mean, look at how many people you can put as a reference on your resume if you happen to be looking for a job somewhere else for whatever reason. If you've connected with interest groups and you've demonstrated that you have drive and desire and energy and your thoughts, just those, the characteristics you want in an employee, and you've demonstrated that, put my name on your resume.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. And to any of the employers, or specifically to any of the folks that might end up going down that road, put the IG that you're involved in and what you're doing in the IG on your resume. Okay. And if someone asks you what it is and they have absolutely no clue, you have my okay to look at them like they have 5 heads and then explain to them what it means. Okay. Because again, it's like, the world is changing as far as education and just what constitutes good stuff on a resume, right? Like, unless you're graduating from Harvard or Stanford, there's now competing things to having a college degree. Not that a college degree is not worth anything, but I'm saying there's other things that are equally weighted, if not more so, than a college degree. And quite frankly, if I see someone who went to whatever community college, but they got their broker's license, they got their CPCU, and now they're involved in an IG, or they have some other kind of senior leadership position, man, I'm hiring them. I'm finding a spot for them. Like, I don't need an open slot. I'm going to find a slot for them because that person didn't get told step by step what to do there. They had to find that path on their own and really kind of like bust their rear end to get there too.
Yep, that personal drive.
For no pay, right? Like, yeah. I mean, I'm still waiting for my fringe benefits of being part of society, in terms of the cash. I don't know. Like, I get a gift card every so often, I think.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things where you can't measure an immediate or long-term ROI. It's so far, and it's not because it's non-existent. It's because it's so far through the roof of the graph. I don't even know if you can put a number on it. Like I don't even know if you could quantify it. Now some actuary who's watching this is going to make me eat my lunch or eat my tie. But so yeah, that's I'll get down off my soapbox. But any other like final parting points or kind of aspects of the IGs that you guys find valuable?
We are in the holiday season, and the IGs are just a gift to everybody.
Well, and that makes me think too, we are a very giving bunch of people as well. So we all stepped up with COVID and Feeding America. We all did some donating, over $20,000 worth of donations that were recorded anyways. I mean, I'm sure there was more than that, but that's how much people, we talked about and we tallied. So if you are looking to join an organization that also gives back, there's that piece too.
That's a huge point. Huge point. So I'm pretty good with that. So I guess unless there's any final comments or questions in the feed, which I'm not seeing, look, I want to say thank both of you. Thank you, Denise, for joining us and guest starring on this episode, and thank you, Joann, for pinch hitting for Heather, and Mr. Pickel. Thank you for making a cameo once again. And happy holidays to you both. I hope you have a really fantastic time, whether it's small gathering, big gathering, whatever. And hopefully you guys stay safe. And hopefully I don't end up sending the snow that I have right now to either one of you.
I wouldn't mind the snow. Thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I had a good time.
Awesome.
Happy holidays, Matt. Thank you.
Yep. Happy holidays.
And everyone else, happy holidays.
Take care.
Bye-bye.